The following video is not intended for children, and no, pajals do not count. And it's best enjoyed if you've either completed the MSQ up to the level indicated in the title, or you otherwise don't care about spoilers. Hello, Steak Driven here. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Let's Play Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. Last time we were put to the task of talking to 8 random people and helping them out. But then I got disconnected from the damn server and had to spend the next 12 freaking hours getting back on. Behold, Boon. Through thine efforts, word hath spread through Labyrinthos. Verily, to a far greater number than we anticipated. Living Way doth gather more loporits as we speak. Blah. I shall assign each in accordance with their skills, that new bonds of friendship might be forged. I hate how I have to keep checking the camera there. Should greater matters require not thine attentions, watch over them, I prithee. If I were trying to record, I wouldn't care. This music is much more like it. And then they made me their chief. Oh, hi, Living Way.
Phew! Oh, finally some rest. Why, I haven't spoken so much in, well, in forever.
Let's get that set up. There we go.
Lively, isn't it? The town is abuzz. Everyone eager to meet with our friends from the moon.
'Twould behoove you to consult with Sleeping Way. As our moon's pilot, his advice should be most pertinent.
I'm impressed. Truth be told, I struggle to tell one from another. No offense
Sleeping
intended,
Way
of
is the pilot.
None taken. After you and your friends left Mare Elementorum, we spent no small amount of time with your Urianger.
Urianger?
Oh, the conversations we had. He told us all about Atheris, answered our every question, no matter how trifling or trivial. Look! Every page filled to the margins with knowledge.
Great.
When I first arrived, I was struck by how little I knew. It was daunting. But then I realized that, were it not for Urianger and his teachings, we'd still be stuck on the moon, gazing at your world and wondering what we've been missing.
They're so precious.
What would they think if they could see Urianger now? I dare say they'd be more than a bit surprised. And impressed, no doubt.
Are you talking about Moon and Louis Soir?
Master Louis Soir,
Knew it.
Minfilia,
Mins.
Papalimo, and not to forget,
Moon Brita. Is that her parents?
Oh there. Heard there was a visiting expert who we might bother with a few questions. I take it you'd be the one.
Oh man.
Yes, I am.
Wilson and Blovida, Charlian's foremost researchers in the field of teleportation magic, and Moonbreeder's parents.
It hath been some time. 'Tis good to see you in good health.
Likewise, old friend. Blovida and I were most honored to answer the call. Never expected this reunion, though, did we, dear?
I'll say, the nerve.
Oh man.
Sending that letter, then running off to the gods know where.
Aww.
Do you have any idea how worried we were?
They were damn near his in-laws, you know.
I'm sorry. 'Twas remiss of me not to deliver the news in person. No, more than that. 'Twas I who...
Our daughter was disillusioned after Master Louisoix left her behind. The day the Scions called upon her was the happiest I'd seen her in years. She made her every choice of her own free will. No one could have ever forced her to do otherwise. Don't blame yourself for her death. Celebrate her life. You know that's what you want.
I wasn't expecting this. Wow. Oh boy.
If there is one thing we resent you for, it was that we could not be there to mourn her with you. Reading the words you penned in that shaky hand, we must have cried as much for you as we did for her.
Aww.
I'm sorry. I truly, truly am. I knew not what to say. Knew not how to express my feelings.
He hadn't gone through his character development yet, really.
The poems and platitudes of wiser men.
Oh, look at the way the...
Musings on sadness and loss.
Oh, his hands are twitching. Look at the way they animated. Oh.
And meaningless in the moment.
Man.
Silly boy. We are all powerless before such grief. Even now, try as I might, the words escape me.
Swear's so good at making this hard ass get moved.
But in our hearts, we know. We always know.
So well written, so good. So sad, but so good. Like they're good at making these moving scenes.
I remember when you were young, how the lads teased you for choosing the company of books over others.
Jerks.
Our moon didn't take kindly to that. Be nice to Urianger, she'd shout, and give them a walloping. No matter how many times we scolded her.
So we offered a suggestion. Rather than starting fights, why don't you be the bridge between Urianger and the others? She had to mull it over for a while. Arms crossed, brow furrowed in intense thought.
Those were some intense
But
brows.
from that day on, she never let you be alone. She'd drag you outside to play, pepper you with endless questions, read the same books you read, all to try and understand you that much better. I'm sure it was annoying and exhausting at the time, but she only ever had the best of intentions.
He's getting so
And
much
look
focus.
at you now, at the center of the crowd. The reason there even is a crowd, having brought these people together.
Shit. These are death flags.
You've no idea how proud we are.
I'm super worried that Urianger is going to die in this expansion.
To see the boy our daughter trusted and believed in more than anyone grow into the man she always knew he could be. I can see her in you, too. Feel her. She walks with you wheresoever you go. So thank you, Urianger, for being who you are.
I think I can feel her too.
Poor Uri.
The truth of her life. Not sorrow, but hope and love.
This moon breeder. She was important to him, wasn't she?
Yeah.
You could ask the man himself.
Oh, no. But watching this exchange reminds me how much I've yet to learn about your world. And its people.
Do they reproduce, like...
You
the
can
way
live here
that
your entire
humans
life and
do?
hardly learn a thing.
Well, I mean, sure they can have romantic love without having to bump,
And that's
right?
why
Like,
it's too soon for this to end.
they can cuddle, right? They can have a concept of romance. They might even be able to fall in love. Hey, Uri. Oh, Boone. Be assured that I am fine. I am. Full glad am I to see them, too, after so long. Gladder still than it was in your company. Oh, gladder still that it was in your company. As difficult as it was to accept their kindness, 'twould have been harder if I had faced them alone. Ahem. Thou hast my gratitude for lending courage to the Loperites. Not disposed to rest on their laurels, several of our guests have elected to accompany my countrymen to their stations. Some few may still come hither seeking counsel, and so I shall remain to aid them as needs be. If thou art needed elsewhere, do not let me detain thee. As a matter of fact, I was hoping you might check on Alice. Last I saw, she was struggling to carry an enormous pile of boxes out the west gate. Oh no! Yeah, she does this all the time. She always tries to punch above her weight. I could go myself, but we both know whose help she is less likely to scorn. Not to mention that, much to my misfortune, I can think of several other things I ought to be doing. Until later, by which you mean you just want to sleep with some pretty Charlie and Scola. Guilty as charged. Hey, Ellie. Boone, what are you doing out here? Oh, I thought you could use some help. No, I don't mind if you help with the boxes, but it's far from the most exciting of tasks. Are you sure? I mean... Well, I appreciate the assistance. We need to get these to Aporia. Time is short, of course, but they're full of organic specimens and samples, so try not to be too rough with them. Okay. Alphinaud should be waiting for us when we arrive. I'll see you there. Here you go, Alfie. Oh, you're helping with the crates. Wonderful. You can put those there with the others. You have my gratitude, but how did you come to be involved in all this? Thancred went to go chase some tail. Ha! I suppose I have Thancred to thank as well. If you're wondering why we were tasked to bringing these boxes to Aporia to begin with, so was I. It turns out that this is the base of operations of sorts. Those with final say as to what is included in the ship's manifest can be found here. Oh. Father included, I suspect. Yeah, I already passed through here and got the aetheryte. That should be everything. You carried all of that at once? Are you trying to injure yourself? Hey, at least she's using her legs this time, not her back. Oh, hush, they're lighter than they look, and not everyone has your delicate arms. I suppose we should let someone know we finished. Theopoldin is in the courtyard. We can report to him. Why don't you come along? You should get credit for your assistance, at least. Considering where we are, we might even learn something interesting. Okay. God, it never ends, does it? What can I do for you? I can hear you. We brought some samples from the Charlian Hamlet, Series 110. The crates are by the entrance. Thank you. I had expected one of my colleagues, but we are dreadfully short-handed. Just a moment. You're Fulchenal's children, aren't you? Alphinaud and Alice at your service. You're well acquainted with father, I take it. Quite. I've been friends with your parents since your days at the studium. I remember when you were about yay high, waddling hither and thither. Oh. Clearly it's been some time since we've met. 'Tis good to see you again, wielding your father's nulths no less. Or nuliths. You knew our parents when they were young? What were they like? Pray, spare no details.
I should like nothing more than to regale you. Alas, I am meant to be in charge here, and reams of paperwork want for submission. Ugh.
We can help you with that, in exchange for the sorts of stories our parents would never willingly divulge, of course.
Yeah, the kind of stories that ex-Rune Tia likes to tell about Allie.
What? No, you will tell me later, I swear, or I swear I'll...
You'll do what? You'll do what?
Very well then. There happen to be 3 sets of documents in need of delivery, so how about you each take one?
Okay, deliver some documents. Got it. You will find a forum representative waiting to collect... Okay, driving directions. 1 filler quest later.
Quick and efficient. I dare say you have a talent for this work. The twins' papers only needed to be delivered elsewhere in the facility, so they should be returning any moment. We return with not a scrap of paperwork remaining on our persons, you will note. You both have my thanks, and my apologies for sending you on an errand far below your ambitions. Why, even as a babe, you struggled out of your swaddling clothes and... That is quite enough of that, thank you. It was compromising stories of our parents we'd asked to hear, to reiterate. Of course, of course. I've known your father so long, I must have something, Well, as you know, part of why the Levailleur name garners such respect in Charlian is your family's storied history. You can trace your ancestry directly to those who came aboard Junkress Hope, a lineage few can claim. I've never thought of it much myself. It's not as though our forebears founded our nation. They were simply there when it happened. Nevertheless, it has traditionally been a point of pride. 'Tis why Junkress' pronouncement, renounce the ways of war and pursue enlightenment through knowledge and reason, has ever been our family's creed. Until your grandfather's time, aye. Archon Louisquois looked not to Junkress' words, but his deeds. He asserted in defiance of his peers that choosing to save the great and the small from the rising tides was the true mark of our founder's virtue. Perhaps it was his expertise, his knowledge of ancient prophecy and the fall of civilization, that led him to conclude that to eschew conflict at every turn was to consign mankind to his doom.
Louisquois is like... Swa, you look in the dictionary, you look at the word based, you see his picture. No, you see that animated gif of him smiling. That's what you see.
There will ever be conflict, and calamity will follow, thus. To ignore the plight of those that one might conceivably save is not wisdom, it is indolence.
You remember his words well indeed. Archon Louisquois lived by that personal creed, and used every means at his disposal to bring succor to those in need, Charlian or no.
No one loved and admired your grandfather more than his son.
He's got a hell of a way of showing it.
Yet Fortunal could not reconcile Louisquois' deeds with the philosophy of their forebears and his peers. A philosophy in which he believed so fervently, yet made a pariah of his father. Fortunal agonized over this contradiction for much of his life. Gods, father. A son may carry his father's blood, but his choices are his own to bear. Is it not always thus? Gods know Fortunal's a cranky old goat, so I'm sure you butt heads often enough. Yet even so, you must know that you are constantly in his thoughts, every moment of every day, and that is not an exaggeration in the slightest. You should have seen him when you were born. Barely recognizable he was, with a kind of dumbfounded grin I'd not seen since he first took a fancy to your mother. He was practically skipping when he told me the news. Oh, take my word for it, he loves you to an embarrassing degree.
Again, he's got a hell of a way of showing it.
But he is also frustratingly single-minded. Once he's decided that a given action is for the best, he will stay the course no matter who or what opposes him. A profoundly annoying habit when you're on the other end of it, as I'm sure you'll agree.
Yeah, I'll say. Thank you for your insight. When next we meet our parents, I shall mention that we spoke. Now tell me something about his days in the studium. Try not to get me into too much trouble. I need the forum on my side. Yeah, politics is important here. Speaking of which, I ought to be getting back to work. I have to make sure those old specimens you brought me make it to their proper places, or the cranky old goat will have my hide. We can speak again later. Hail, you three! Who's that? Raha! Graha! Surely Kokol hasn't driven you out of the forge already. For better or for worse, no. However, he has set me to a task that requires more than a single pair of hands. And here you are. I could use at least one of you, but I won't object to more. Unfortunately, Alize and I have prior commitments, and we've delayed too. And we have delayed too long as it is. What about you, Boone? Can you spare the time? I've got nothing better to do. Perfect. This shouldn't take long. In the event that I quote, promised heap of adamantite falls right out of the bloody sky and onto my lap, Master Kokol wishes to be ready to put the provincial hammer to the proverbial hammer to anvil at a moment's notice. To fabricate these parts, however, he needs the flames in Kokol's forge to burn hotter. He sent me to increase the amount of aether being funneled into his furnaces. Flow of fired aspirated aether into Labyrinthos is regulated by an elemental reactor south of here, to which I have borrowed the key. The adjustment will require 2 people to carry out safely, but I can explain the process when we arrive. This is where we part ways then. We'll see you in Charlie and Hamlet once the adamantine arrives, if not before. The reactor is housed within this facility. I'll be the one to go inside and adjust the aether output. When I do, a rather large amount of water ether will issue from the vent at the top. I expect this to attract at least a few elementals. Okay, you want me to kick their asses. Got it. Can I ask that you put down any that draw too near? They'll pose you little trouble, I'm sure. Wait here if you would. Alright. Raha has returned. Did everything go smoothly out here? Yeah, of course it did. I thought as much. No major complications to speak of inside either. And the water aether appears to be venting properly. I suspect Kokol will have seen a difference in his forge flames by the time I return. Let's see, we've helped the twins, we've helped Urianger, we helped Graha. Since I have you, there was another matter I thought I'd discuss with you. Oh? Nothing terribly important, merely something I've been considering. Part of this I shared with everyone, yet you and only you have been to Elpis. Oh, you want to talk about that? As we've established, refined adamantite is a product of Alleg, of the Empire's twilight years in fact. It was a material which saw much use as part of the Allegon's efforts to extend beyond the bounds of the world. Dalamud, of course, being the most prominent. Of those who would push further, expand Allegan's empire to encompass the heavens and stars above, perhaps the greatest was its infamous technologist, Ammon. The guy who was Fandaniel. Ammon wanting to travel to the stars? He did. He must have had his own reasons, however, for there is no evidence to suggest that he retained memories of his life as an ancient. He only joined the Ostians once the Empire was all but dust, you know. If not his memory, though, what drove him to pursue this idea with such fervor? This may seem far-fetched, but what if souls like mine have a personality, so to speak, a natural disposition towards which they're inclined? Yeah, that would explain why Boone and Azem are essentially the same person. We know with relative certainty that it was a gross decadence and inexorable decline of Alleg that moved Ammon to resurrect Emperor Zand. The Empire's people spoke lightly of death and destruction, experimenting on those they deemed beneath them to fill the emptiness in their hearts. In facilitating Zan's return, Ammon provided these languid souls with the means to free themselves from the mire of their own indolence. Or would have, had not Zan been convinced by his own death that life itself was meaningless. Ammon's desire for his countrymen to conquer the heavens could only be a means to the same end, to instill the people with new purpose. Like Hermes before him, Ammon was appalled by how those around him lived, but could never bring himself to believe that those lives were devoid of meaning. And both of them sought that meaning, that hope, in the distant stars. Such is my theory, anyway. It's a good theory. It sounds logical. Ultimately, it is the consequence of their actions which matter. Their motives are of no moment, and yet they're interesting. To reach those stars on wings of adamantite, to travel to the ends of creation and beyond, the promise of hope everlasting, that much I do understand. But enough music for now. Why don't we see how Coco's getting on? Woohoo! I can feel those flames ablazing from here. Glad you found someone capable, Graha, but there's not much left for you lot to do. Unless you can conjure up some of that refined adamantite any faster. I do trust you to deliver on your promise, I do. Only, I hate waiting. I want that adamantite and I want it now! We, share your impatience, I assure you. Is there truly nothing else we can assist with in the meantime? I wish. The hell of this sitting about's unbearable. Pity the forum frowns on recreational explosions. Aww. Well, so long as they can't prove it was premeditated, get you gone. I have mistakes to make. In that case, I suppose we should go and return the key to the reactor. I'll have one more look to make sure nothing's gone wrong, unintentionally or otherwise. I'm certain there are better uses for your time, however. I will join you into Charlie and Hamlet anon.
All set, I take it?
Hey Stola.
We finished what we could. Delivered supplies, tracked down escaped animals. Trivial tasks as they may be.
Totally.
That's enough, don't you think? If there was anything more important still undone, that would be a problem in itself.
I agree.
The vessel is essentially ready for departure. All that remains is to load the final batch of supplies and see everyone on board. Once we've readied the ether burner, that is.
Ah, had a feeling we might find you all here.
Our consultations with the Loperates, too, have run their course. Pleased I am to say that our researchers' concerns have for the most part been allayed, though some insist on making adjustments to the very end. For their part, Livingway and her peers have graciously offered to stay and keep the people company.
Hooray!
Lest any lingering queries go unanswered.
All that remains is to wait for the refined adamantite.
What are we gonna do in the meantime?
Alphinaud, are you there? It's me, Kryl. Your special delivery has arrived. Round up everyone and come to the harbor at once.
Speak of the devil.
Speak of the devil. Let us go at once.
Why am I Alfie today? Whoa. Whoa.
Forgive the intrusion, Master Fortuner. I bring urgent news. A great commotion has broken out in Scholar's Harbor. Your presence is requested, with all speed.
This does not bode well.
Now, where might this delivery be?
Good question.
Oh.
Oh. That's quite a few boxes.
I'm sure it's very important, but we cannot accept these without the proper permits.
Oh, stuff it.
By the 12! Surely, these can't all be.
They might be, Allie. Hey, mana cutters.
Bleeding hellfire! They're bringing them by sea and by air. All these folks in these crates.
And more on the way. Got your adamantite right here. A bigger haul than any of these sorry bastards brought, and that's no lie.
Really?
Yes, because you were charged with seeing the shipments from Gridania and Uldar here, along with your own. Give credit where credit is due.
Sounds like the sorry whinging of a sore loser. An hypocrite to boot. Ain't no way a scrawny whelp like you took a dozen steps inside a Dalamud shard.
Hey, he's actually a pretty competent fighter nowadays.
I'll have you know I went all the way to the entrance. I played a vital role in keeping a lookout whilst our expeditionary forces secured the adamantite.
I try to come to your defense and you say shit like that.
Left you outside so you wouldn't get anyone killed, did they? Well then, credit where credit's due, you did a right fine job sitting on your ass.
Oh, just screw already.
Take that back.
Make me.
I will not stoop to your level.
My, what a grand welcome party.
Shaoban!
Hancock. And Soroban.
Oh, Soroban, sorry. Why did I think it was Shaoban?
We come bearing relics both sacred and Allegan, as well as a few other gifts that
Sword!
may be of help.
Hey,
to be presented with best wishes from the Eastern Alliance.
Hey, do you think I could try that sword out?
I myself have come with a sacred relic of the Kojin. Upon learning of your need, Bunchin bade me deliver it on behalf of the Blue with all haste.
Oh. Oh, hey, how's the princess doing?
Fearing I could not swim here with the necessary speed, however, I thought to beg our Confederate allies for aid. To my delight, Hancock was already preparing for departure at the selfsame port, and had space for additional cargo.
Ah.
We did, of course, need quite the impressive vessel to get it all here in time.
Oh, hey! Is that the Excelsior?
Fortunately, our majestic associates have been more than helpful. 'Tis an honor to join the Warrior of Light on another adventure, they tell me.
Biggs and Wedge must be there too. Well, why aren't we seeing them? Where are they?
That is all wonderful to hear, but what of the extraordinary cost? I shudder to think of the ransom we must pay for such a bounty.
Oh, Lolorito.
Fret not for your coin purse, young Alphinaud. Lord Lolorito looks ever towards the profits of the future, and thus the East Aldenar Trading Company went to some lengths to reduce the financial liability. And since the Scions funded the entire venture, not a gill need be rendered up in compensation. Everything is already yours.
Oh, good. Lolorito must have gotten my threatening letter.
We funded the venture. When?
Don't let the name fool you. This coin keeper knows a thing or two about spending. When it comes to capital investiture, a sprinkling of gil here and there will not do. You need enough savings to make waves when it really counts, which is why frugality is paramount.
Tataru!
We also had the benefit of a generous patron. Generous being rather an understatement. She has supported us from the shadows since the very founding of the Scions. We even had coffers to fill.
No way. Oh!
Mother!
Allie's mom has got it going on.
I remain, of course, an entirely neutral party. I simply thought our family's coffers were needlessly full. We can hardly take them with us on your teeny-tiny toy boat, now can we? And would be a shame to leave all that hard-earned wealth unspent. Waste not.
These two. Oh my god. That's me right now, kind of.
However did you manage so much in so short a time, though? We expected word to reach only a fraction of our allies.
No kidding.
Did I not tell you I have my ways?
Krile, you are the bomb.
Erenville, you were involved too.
Why wouldn't he be?
I received a letter from Krile after we parted ways in Labyrinthos. She explained what the Scions were trying to accomplish, and why you might soon require the services of the Gleaners, spread across the world as we are.
How come I never heard of you before a month ago?
I pray you do not interpret this as a betrayal of Charlia. I accept that the Forum's aim in pushing us to our limits was to preserve what knowledge we have, and I bear you no ill will for it. Yet, in collecting that knowledge, what I came to appreciate most about our star is that there remains so much we do not know.
Yeah, so much that can be explored in future expansions. We hope.
That is why I chose to help the Scions. To combat the obliteration of those countless, undiscovered wonders. I held no illusions that they would be less demanding taskmasters. Though, rest assured, if I had, I would have been sorely disappointed. To make a long story short,
too late.
The whole of the guildship cooperated to ensure your call was heard far and wide.
Awesome. Hey, Sidfa and Nero! Hey, Hori!
What's this about a ship that can fly to the moon?
This music! Oh my god, it's here!
And why didn't you mention it sooner? The one time you don't beg my aid, your problem's a bloody ship that can fly to the moon!
Sid! You brought the team!
Of course! Garland Ironworks' finest. You need only point us towards my new favorite ship.
Wait, is that actually Alpha?
Oh, I nearly forgot. We stopped by Whirlwind before coming here and picked up a package from Gaius.
Is it that awesome suit that I got to play with earlier?
He's still of the mind that actions make for better penance than words, contrite or otherwise, so we offer none of the latter. What he sent is an Allagan relic Valens used in his weapons experiments. Has a fair bit of refined adamantite in it too.
Wow.
As you like us not suspect, we've also brought adamantite for Mordona's Dalamud shard.
How you guys been?
I admit to some consternation upon first receiving Kryle's message. So few Scions remain at the Rising Stones now. Far too few for such an expedition. However, the Gleaners were able to secure us reinforcements. Idleshire's treasure hunters, not least among them.
Fantastic. Man.
I know. How the Gobbyflock fought. Slowfix's gratitude for the safe return of his daughter has not waned, and he gathered his kin to our side with an astounding quickness.
What a night his
The clash between their machina and the Allagan defences was a sight to behold.
Oh, man.
I wager even you would have been impressed by the magnitude of the gobby booms.
Oh, sorry I missed that, Hori.
Fascinating as all this is, I fail to see how it explains your presence here. Does Razat-Han not have more pressing concerns?
We do. Yet averting the final days would be the most expedient solution.
That's true.
That, and I am indebted to you. though they chose to take their leave of Thavnair, those you saved in Galimund remain my people. My gratitude is beyond words. 'Tis appropriate that I aid you in kind. If in the doing we bring salvation to others,
Oops, sorry.
you will recall that I spoke of my father, Midgard Summer, and his journey across the great expanse.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
As he traveled betwixt the stars, his resplendent scales drank of the ether in those nigh empty surrounds, and imparted to him the strength to persevere. Thinking they might further your cause, I called out to my kin for consent.
To do what? Oh,
Ashdaya's answer was silence, as ever.
We've not met her yet. Or his. Not sure.
Tiamat and Hrisvelgre, however, responded favorably to the suggestion.
We have not met that one. We've not met that first one.
My sire, too, stirred from his slumber long enough to speak and say, "Very well."
And then he rolled over and fell back to sleep again.
Thus have I brought you his own worm scales. Fit them to your purpose, and seek a worthier fate for us all.
I'm sure we can find a good use for him.
You'd be hard-pressed to find someone else so familiar with the unique properties of dragon scales. So I invited myself along.
Glad to have you aboard.
Bugger me, this is so unbelievable. I've gone right back round to believing it again.
Yeah, just like, yeah.
Forget a 6% gain in efficiency. With all these goodies, we could get 7, no? 10, no? 14 bleeding percent.
Engineergasm! I'm familiar with those.
Think of how far we could go. What we could do with that much power. What we could blow up.
No. Bad Lala. No blowing stuff up.
If Kokol is duly convinced, then it must be true. In which case, the Scion's end of the bargain has been fulfilled. Would you not agree?
Stick. Will he remove the stick from his ass? That's a dark look.
Yes, Father?
Oh, God.
I know not what you seek of Hydaelyn, nor for what purpose you would take command of our ship. Yet this much is certain. To do so will be to dictate the fate of this star and the lives upon it. The lives of each and every creature, in their magnitude and their fragility. Do you understand? And are you prepared?
We have seen and we have felt how much each life shapes this world. And so we are determined to abandon none. We understand what is at stake, and we are prepared to bear this burden.
And as I've said before, running away is not going to solve the problem. The Medion's just going to find us again.
Then I will bear it with you.
The stick is gone! The
I
stick!
beg you,
Up his
share
ass!
your struggles with me. As family.
The stick up his ass is gone! He's showing emotion!
You grasped my fingers with such tiny hands the day you were born. I thought my heart might burst. 'Twas love and happiness beyond expression. Overwhelming. And a conviction so powerful that I trembled with something close to rage. I had heard the final days foretold. I swore to myself then and there that I would not let them steal your futures. The great exodus would succeed, must succeed. No sacrifice or sin was worse than the alternative. If anything gave me pause, 'twas mine own father. The Archon Louisoix openly decried Charlian's policies, a perspective which I regarded with increasing disdain as I grew older. Yet even...
Bollocks.
A naive hope, but stubborn enough that I could never bring myself to keep you apart. No, that was his doing, when he perished at Carteneau. As we pulled that twisted slab of Dalamud from the sea, I remembered the warmth of your newborn touch. Chastened, I vowed never again to suffer any interference in my mission to protect you. No matter that you yourselves wished otherwise. Detest me, fight me tooth and nail, I would suffer it, and more, and be satisfied so long as I could force you onto the ship. I was wrong. You two have grown so much stronger and so much wiser than I dared dream.
So much wholesome.
You have earned the right to walk your own path, and already begun to do so.
Good. Because there are things we care about, and people we love, and none of them is replaceable. Not a one.
It cannot have been an easy journey for you to have come so far.
Oh, it was rough. So much
We
rough.
shall be glad to acquaint you with the finer details someday, once this danger has passed. All that we have seen and heard, that we have felt and learned in our travels.
They went to another world.
Ours is not a kind world, but it is beautiful. Always.
Oh no. Are you quite sure that's wise? After all, someone turns pale and flees the room when he sees so much as an envelope containing word of your adventures.
Oh, lovely.
Whatever will happen if he learns what you were really up to?
Amelians. Though I have wronged my children most gravely, I owe you an apology as well. I assumed that it was the Scion's influence that made them so keen to charge headlong into danger.
They didn't need any encouragement from me. They did that on their own.
Yours, in particular.
Oh no, Allie was reckless way before I met her.
Said influence instead brought them together with the many fine people gathered here today. In which case, I hope you continue to guide them.
Ah, you betcha.
If we've finished loitering about the harbor, might I suggest we put our plans into motion? People are beginning to look confused.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Perhaps you can spare a few words ere they resume the tedious lugging of cargo. You've no small number of friends and admirers here, after all.
Public speaking, oh dear, hi, I like swords. Okay. Our moment of triumph is close at hand. It's time to...
Your assistance is appreciated. Now, in an orderly fashion, if you please.
This game is so fucking good, man. God. We finally managed to clear the harbor, which means the rest is in the engineer's capable hands. Meanwhile, Father has issued us an invitation. As was agreed, he will reveal the means by which Heidelin may be contacted. We are to meet in Emporia when we're ready. Given the vital knowledge she holds, I suggest we leave without delay. But we're gonna have to do that in the next one. That's our show. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time on Let's Play Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. As usual, you know what to do. Dare to believe you can survive, and you hold the future in your hand. Dare to keep all your dreams alive. The power is now at your command.